Oh, yeah.
Wow, this is like hella 90s.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hella 90s. I'm Michael, and with me as always is my co-host Ryan Bitters.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the 90s classic POGs. So tracing this back, this actually started with a Japanese card game called Minko, and that actually was a forerunner to trading cards. So eventually in the 20s and 30s, there was a game played in Hawaii with milk caps. Basically, people would stack up these cardboard milk caps and throw other milk caps at the stack. And when the lids faced with art upwards, the player got to keep those. And this was a thing basically among poor people, if you read. And later on, it became a thing again and spread to the States. Someone eventually capitalized on this and marketed it with mass-produced cardboard pieces. The name POG comes from the juice that these caps were coming from. This was pomegranate, orange, and guava. So it got mass-marketed. Every company basically wanted to get a piece. Marvel put out their own. Some of the baseball card companies put their own out. And if you look at them, they run the full gamut of neon 90s awesomeness. So where do we want to go first? We want to talk about how to play?
Well, yeah, I want to maybe back up just a little bit because the thing that grabbed me right from the get-go when I was doing my end of the research was this woman that kind of brought it back in the 90s. I think it was in the early 90s, like 90, 91 maybe.
Yeah, that was Galbiso.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Well, yeah, her first name was Blossom, which made me think of another 90s thing, the show Blossom.
Right.
But the thing that got me was the reason I highlighted it in my notes even. The reason she brought it back or wanted to bring it into this curriculum or whatever was that it was a good alternative to the violent schoolyard games such as dodgeball. So it was a way to escape for the kids that didn't want to get pegged in the face with a dodgeball, apparently. So we got POGs because of that.
But you know, it's kind of a surprising thing to think of when one of the pieces is called a slammer. Just kind of a funny juxtaposition.
Yeah, right. Other than that, as far as how it was created, no, I don't have anything other than that. You said you wanted to go into how it was played?
Yeah, so the very basic thing. So these are stacked up. The mass-produced POG brand POGs is essentially just a circle of cardboard with art on usually one side, sometimes both. But there would be like a head and a tail side. You have another piece called a slammer. That actually came later. The original milk cap game did not have a slammer. When these started getting produced, they started coming out in plastic and metal. So they were a lot heavier and flipped the caps a lot more easily. It also kind of damaged them. I remember not being allowed to play with metal slammers with some folks because they didn't want their POGs getting dinged up. And then I actually never played with this rule, but just read about it earlier. There was a special POG known as a poison. And I had some of these. I just thought it was a cool logo plastered on it.
So what was the use of those?
Well, apparently when that flipped up, it negated any of the other upright POGs. So it was kind of like a lose a turn in a way.
Really? Yeah, I don't recall that.
Yeah, we never played with that rule.
Did you play POGs exactly like how the rules or the way you just read the rules? Did you guys ever play like an alternative version, or was it always just that way?
I think sometimes we would play with one person's POGs and not mix them up. I remember playing one time and having them mixed together and then fighting over who actually owned which POGs.
Right.
I see a lot of allusions to playing for keeps.
Right.
I
don't remember ever playing for keeps. Ever.
Oh, I don't think I was allowed to. I think my parents forbade me from doing it. Not that I wanted to anyway.
Right. Which makes that a perfect excuse. No, my parents said I can't.
Right. Well, and apparently it became kind of an epidemic issue. Some schools saw it as gambling, playing for keeps.
Yeah, kind of.
Gambling.
I can see
and
that.
And it led to a lot of fights, apparently.
Yeah. Man, I do remember, though, that they were highly collectible. Like, that was the thing at that time.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of them that I had specifically though. They were just so random. I
had a ton. I had two different silos, if you will. That was another interesting thing about
They remind me of the M&M's mini containers,
right?
But bigger.
Well, so I had one like that, and then I had one that had like an actual screw-on lid.
Really? Ooh, fancy.
Which I think was from the Marvel set.
Nice.
Marvel was one of the companies that put their own out, and they actually had like a completely different name since they couldn't use the POG marketing.
Yeah, I noticed that this milk company or whatever really had that locked up pretty tight as far as branding.
Well, and it looks like the World POG Federation actually either licensed it or straight up took it from them.
That made me laugh that there was a World POG Federation. Like, I didn't know it was that serious. Like, you're in it when you're in the World POG Federation.
Well, so I believe we actually had a World POG Federation branded play surface. So that was an interesting thing. We talk about this game being basically just cardboard circles. But you have slammers. I remember going into the hobby store and picking out specific slammers separately from a set. And then you could buy the play surfaces, which were basically just a plastic circle plate to stack the pogs on. And then obviously the tubes to hold them in. I remember the hobby store also had one of the most 90s things ever. It was a slammer with O.J. Simpson's picture inset into it, and then bars coming down so that O.J. was literally in the slammer.
That's clever. I have a couple other things I wanted to bring up. I don't know if you saw it, but about the Army and Air Force exchange service. Did you happen to see that? How they were kind of used as currency? Had you ever heard that up before this?
I had no idea about that. That blew me away.
All right. So for those listening, apparently they used these paper or card, I guess it'd be cardboard coins, more or less, as currency because coins or metal currency was too heavy to ship or to air freight to, overseas. It says they were redeemable at any AAFES store worldwide, which would be the Army and Air Force Exchange Service.
Yeah, AFES is pretty much that they run all the post exchanges.
So, wonder how long that lasted.
I don't know. I actually saw some on eBay when I was looking for some of the pogs I used to have.
So, were they branded military?
Oh yeah, they're clearly AFES tokens.
That's very interesting to me. And then I gotta get into it, I guess. I went and looked for. I'm sure you did too, because you said you went and looked at some pogs. I found this list of. It's from Ranker, so I give a little cite the webpage here. It says Pogs, the weird discs from the 90s, have a super legitimate collector's market now, and I'll link that in the show notes somewhere. But it has these Pogs that are highly valuable. And stop me if you are aware of any of these. The first one is the Jurassic Park Pogs Jurassic Park 6 hologram Pog with Slammer. So it's those hologram ones that you can kind of rotate back and forth and they change. Do you remember those? I don't remember those.
I never saw those.
It says that these Slammers are valued. I guess they might not be selling for $1 million.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either. But that's what this website says. Super Nintendo Slammers, and it also came with the board, the Pog mat. So that's kind of what you were talking about.
Right. Ours was a hard plastic plate, basically.
Yeah, and it came with like the sleeve or the what were those called? Did you say they were called silos?
I mean, I just pulled that out of the air. I got no idea.
That's a great description of it. But yeah, this whole Nintendo set came with a bunch of like Mario Pogs and stuff like that, and slammers, a case and a mat. And those are going for $99. There's
pretty sweet set.
Yeah. Marilyn Monroe was one. Dragon Ball GT. I never really got into Dragon Ball GT, but I would have dug some Dragon Ball Z Pogs.
Well, so those are actually Tezos specifically, which was apparently a separate thing, and I'm not sure, but I think these
they do look different.
Yeah, the cutouts on the edges apparently differentiate them.
Yeah, so that's a completely different game then.
I mean, I think it's played exactly the same way.
I do remember the Simpsons Pogs.
I don't think I ever had any, but I think I had some of the official Pog the Game Pogs.
That caveman looking dude looks really familiar.
That is Pogman, the official mascot of the World Pog Federation. I'm 100% serious.
I just love that we had a World Pog Federation. It even existed. Is hilarious to me.
I think it existed until like into the 2000s. I'm verifying this.
I'm almost positive I probably had some Power Rangers Pogs.
Oh, I definitely did.
Oh, and then we can get to this because I think you have alluded to this before. There was a Pog's custom milk cat maker. You have something similar, don't you?
It is still in the attic at my dad's house.
Is it like the one pictured on this ranker list?
It is that exact one.
Oh, really? Wow. So how did it work?
So it came with sheets of basically pre-stamped Pog backs. So the cardboard, the heavier part of it.
Right.
They had an adhesive label. You would peel that off, load the basically sticky blank into the die cutter. You would line up a magazine clipping or something that you wanted to be the face of your Pog. You would cut it. It's basically just a die cutter for the circle.
Right.
And when that cuts, you would put the blank in and press it down.
Wow. I never had one, and I don't remember anybody that did.
I'm actually thinking about making some on my vinyl cutter.
Nice. So what kind of, do you remember any that you made specifically?
I remember we had these, they were almost like Rock'em Sock'em robots, but they were like off-brand fighter characters. This is in the Mortal Kombat era. And so they came with like an instruction booklet that was supposed to give you like the background on these random characters. And, so like pretty much anything we could find with skulls or violence, that was what we were going to use. And that was like one of the things I remember having access to. I think I probably made a Beavis and Butthead Pog.
Definitely. You would have had to have, right?
Pretty much. Did you ever trade Pogs with anybody?
Probably, I would think. Like if somebody had something that I was maybe more into, because there was such a variety of them. I mean, there were sports teams, there was everything. Cartoons. Yeah, I would say I had to. I don't recall doing it, but I mean, I played Magic the Gathering like forever, and I remember I used to trade those with people. So I would imagine I did with Pogs.
I thought of Magic earlier when I was thinking about this product. So we take something as cheap as we can, cardboard, and the entire game is based on throwing something at the cardboard. Then we make it heavier and we dent the cardboard, and then we have kids trading them and getting in fights over them. So you're ensuring that your product is going to have to be replenished.
Right. 90s
Genius business model.
Right. The 90s business people had it figured out, didn't they?
Right. Well, and then they could license it to basically any company to put their junk on it.
Right. And everybody wanted to be on it. So
reading about it, it kind of feels like it fizzled out pretty quickly after it showed up out of nowhere.
So probably about mid 90s or even earlier, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like it started about 94. That's when the Pog Federation was formed.
Okay.
But it seems to have fizzled out in the mid 90s. So that would have only given it a couple years.
Wow.
Still longer than the fidget spinner craze.
That was a very short-lived fad, wasn't it?
I kind of want this to come back.
You think it'll make that loop?
I'm not sure. I feel like, and it may be tied up with the POG name and the POG Federation being shut down. I'm not sure what that trademarking thing looks like. I don't think if you came out with buy my milk cap game, I don't think anyone would get excited about that now.
Right.
But I think it's definitely something I want to introduce my kids to.
Yeah. And it's so simple. It's funny how, like, when we were younger, some of the simple, I mean, and even the decades before us, the simplest things were oftentimes the most fun.
Right. Well, and you can literally find or make the POGs be what you want them to be.
Yeah.
Like you said, if there's something you're interested in, you can have the POGs that show that.
Yeah, and you said something in the beginning that it was a game for poor people, more or less.
I mean, yeah, it was essentially using refuse.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally anyone could play it. Like, there's no excuse to not be able to play it, because you could, even with not having milk caps, or because I don't ever remember a cardboard milk cap ever in my life.
Me either.
But you could play it with anything, really. Anything that you could throw something heavy at and flip it over.
Right. Well, in Minko, the game that this was all originally based on, they actually folded paper together.
Really? Like origami style?
Exactly.
Wow. That almost sounds... I would like to know a little bit more about that. So it looks like it started back up in the 90s in Hawaii, and then spread to California. Basically spread it from the west to the east.
Yep. And apparently through Texas as well.
Those freaking Texans. Yeah. I really, really enjoyed playing it. And I'm 100% with you. I think it would be awesome to see it come back around. Because I think we're slowly starting to see that with a lot of things from the 90s. Not a lot of things. Some things from the 90s are starting to make that loop back.
I think we're seeing a return to things that don't require so much technology. Like as much as we dive into technology, we're also looking at things that have a low cost of entry and maybe don't have a recurring fee to keep them going.
Right.
And I mean, you could get started with POGs for a couple bucks.
Yeah. Yep. I don't have anything else in my notes. You got anything to add to it?
I think the only thing that we didn't touch on, so that they were all circular. I did notice that there were several, and I actually had a few that were cut out with sort of like a buzzsaw pattern.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I do recall that being like the most fragile thing in my silo of POGs.
Right, because the corners probably bent up on them all the time, didn't they?
Exactly. And if something was going to catch when you threw a slammer down, it was going to be the edge of the saw pattern.
Right. Now, do you remember how many you put in a stack when you would play? Was there a certain amount you had to have, or was it just whatever?
I don't know that we ever had a specific number. I just remember that at a certain point they wouldn't be very stable.
Right. Yeah. So I don't remember. I remember after the first one, then they were just everywhere because you didn't.
Right.
We didn't ever stack them back up. You just kept playing with them scattered.
Oh no, they were supposed to get stacked back up.
Really?
See, we have regional differences in play.
Oh wow. Yeah, we always played it with because they would scatter, and then it made it harder to hit them. Huh. Interesting. So, do you remember the slammer? Did you have a specific slammer that you enjoyed the most out of all of them?
I had a couple Marvel slammers. They actually had divots in the back that your fingers were supposed to fit into. But I think they were modeled after like adult fingers. So as a kid, they really didn't make any sense. And I had a couple metal slammers that really did a great job upsetting the stack, but they would ding it up. It really just depended.
Yeah.
I didn't ever really get attached.
The only one I remember specifically having was a Mario slammer, but it wasn't Mario. It was like a mushroom. I think it had like the mushroom on it with the slit eyes. But it was silver. I'm probably gold. It was a metally color. Metallic, maybe is the word I'm looking for. All right. So how would you rank POGs in the world of 90s?
I'm going to give it 4 slammers and 2 milk caps.
4 slammers and 2 milk caps. That's pretty high rating. I will give it 5 slammers and no milk caps, just to be different.
Good answer.
All right, so next week all of you that enjoy the 90s, the Hella 90s podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about, if my notes come up here, songs from 1990, not just the 90s, 1990 specifically. So come with your expectations and prepare to be let down, because I'm sure that we're going to pick songs that you probably didn't like. I will give a little teaser. Mine is a mix of country, rap, pop, and some weird blues.
Yeah, mine's all over the place too.
Yeah. So, with that being said, would you like to send us off, Mr. Loin?
All right, guys, if you like this, be sure to catch us every Wednesday morning. And be sure to catch the Scratched and Trampled Underfoot podcasts on Monday and Tuesday morning. And until then, we'll see you next time.
See you later, guys.